Alright guys, welcome back. Today we're doing an update on my PPS-43 semi-auto conversion build. So, where I'm at right now. Last time you saw the gun, it was still chopped up in parts. And I hadn't done anything to it yet. I don't even think I can clean up the burrs or anything yet. As you can see now, it's mostly together. So first thing before, so I can get out of the way, I did buy me a pack of, this is an original Polar surplus pack with 3 stick mags in it. These are, I think, 35 rounders. I just want to get that out of the way so I can move it out of the way. So where I'm at right now. So first let's start with the lower. So you can see with the lower, I bought a trigger pack assembly from Indianapolis Ordnance to make this a hammer fired gun. So it does have a 2-stage, so fired, trigger is held down, holds, and set, and ready to go. So essentially what it's going to do is, when I get the bolt modified, the bolt will sit forward roughly about right here in the receiver, and then that will make it to where the hammer will strike the firing pin that is going to be in the bolt. So essentially with the bolt, basically you saw I ground down the sear surface on the bolt, so this bolt will never be able to work with work as functioned with the original trigger assembly. The sear, it just can't engage. Now this bolt will still go inside of a gun, and you'll be able to rack it and it will fire, but you can't control it. So essentially what needs to be done with this is, essentially I'm going to be drilling it all the way through and mounting a spring-loaded firing pin inside of it so it can be used with the gun. This is actually the biggest issue I'm having right now with the project. I cannot find a local gunsmith who can do the machining on this bolt for me. Essentially, without this being able to be converted to a firing pin bolt, the rest of the project's dead in the water, because I don't have like a bolt that can work with the gun. So the bolt's out of the way. Other thing on the lower is, when you take these apart and remove the everything that holds in the original trigger assembly, you do have to find a way to retain your disassembly latch, because it is all connected together. So essentially I had to chop all that out, drill it out, and weld it in vertically right there where it used to be, and then make a new pin that would work with the disassembly catch. And actually, if you look, that is a hex drive that I had to cut. I did buy another actual pin, or the stock the bar pin, I can't remember what they call it, to go in here, and I cut it a little too short. So this is working fine. There's a good chance this is probably going to end up staying in the gun, as it is. So the lower receiver is pretty much done, short of the cleanup. I am going to obviously go through, fine sand all this down, re-blue everything, try to make it look good for the lower, so it is set as is. Now the upper, as you can see, is still relatively rough, but it is together in one piece. I still got some bending to do, some filling in, stuff like that. I got the trunking pin welded back in, and I do have my denial bar into the top of the receiver. So this makes it to where a factory bolt or an unmodified bolt cannot go in the gun and then the gun close. So you can't just slap a full auto bolt in this thing and it work. Now, one of the issues that I had, now, one of the things I did do, because this does have a wood stock, it doesn't have the folding stock, I wanted to do the carbine length build on this. So I did get a 16-inch 9mm barrel for the rifle. Now, one of the issues I had with that is, well, with a 16-inch barrel, the way it are designed, you cannot get a 16-inch barrel in here with the receiver welded together. The factory length barrel was not a problem, but you can't do a 16-inch. Now, what's interesting about the Polish PPS-43, unlike the Chinese and Russian one, is the stock, where the rear trunnion is back here, is pretty much solid. So what I ended up doing, see if I can get a good video here, I ended up just drilling a hole in the back of that trunnion so I can insert the barrel from the back all the way in. And install the barrel. And so that's about where I am on this. More or less, it's together. I can do a little bit more polishing on the inside, but once I have a bolt that's machined for my denial bar down the center and has a firing pin in it, this rifle could go together relatively fast and be ready to shoot. But like I said, without having that bolt machined, I'm kind of just stuck in the water right now. Now, once this thing is in shooting order, and I have everything bent up and straight, I will be going through and trying to polish it out the best I can. I have yet to decide whether or not I'm going to try to attempt to re-blue this as factory, or whether I'm going to just paint it. The reason why I'm thinking about painting it is because this is my first parts kit build. So, you know, I'm still learning on it. My welding skills are okay when it comes to building structural stuff. However, this fine stuff with this thin sheet metal, I'm a little shaky on. So my welds aren't that great. Stuff's a little warped. So what I was thinking about doing is possibly going in, using metal filler, basically Bondo, to actually make this thing look flat and straight and everything like that. And then paint it in like a flat paint or something like that. So it looks somewhat accurate, but you know, it can still look good, but I know there's little imperfections and stuff underneath it. I might do a pickerel back here on the back. I've kind of given up on this gun being perfect and looking excellent, you know, perfect, because, well, you know, I'm not a professional builder and this is my first attempt, so kind of gave up on that. But where it's at right now, I'm fairly happy where it's at this moment. Assuming I can find somewhere to do the bolts. I might have to send the bolt out to a professional builder, have it done, if I can't ever find anyone locally. Now, with that said, this isn't the only parts kit build that I'm currently working on. So, I'll be right back with the other kits that I'm working on right now as well. So one of the big mistakes that I made this year was discovering the world of parts kits, especially subguns, because, well, they're relatively easy to build. And I have two kits that I'm currently working on. One I have not done anything yet short of buying some parts. The other one I've done actually quite a bit of work. So the first kit I'm going to introduce is this one. It is a Yugoslavian M49 submachine gun. Pretty much getting all the parts laid out here. So basically, what this is this is a Yugoslavian version of the Russian PPS-41. And one of the major things they did differently with this is, well, they copied it functionally exactly the same. Even the trigger group, the fire control group, is virtually identical in function and the way it's laid out. But one thing that they did with this is, instead of everything being stamped metal, this is all machined out of bar stock. So essentially, this was a piece of bar that was machined out to make the upper receiver. This was a machined piece that was then welded to that tube, and then the tube, you can see, continues all the way through, and then they pretty much machine all the holes into this. So the tube, from what I understand, is all one piece of tubing all the way through, and then they machine everything and welded this on. And of course the trigger assembly, functionally it's exactly identical to the PPS-41. Now this did have some interesting features on it. For instance, the disassembly, you have this button release that you actually pushed in, and then you rotated this cap. I'm not sure if I can do it right now. You rotated this cap, and it has lugs on the back of it, and that's how you opened up the gun. And then your bolt would slide out the back along with the recoil spring. And you can see this bolt is literally just a piece of round bar stock that's been machined down. So very interesting on this one here. Another thing that they had done with the gun that I believe is an improvement over the PPSH is they had quick change barrels. So essentially what you do is you have your barrel, which has lugs on it that would lug in and cam into the receiver and lock into the receiver like so. And that barrel is threaded into the front of the muzzle brake here, which sits on this shroud like so, like this. So because all this is part of the receiver, when this shroud is in there and can't turn and locked into position, it's a very solid fit. And to remove it, you would push down this lever here and rotate the barrel to where it unlugs, and then you would pull the barrel out and then replace your barrel and your muzzle device, essentially. So kind of a really neat design. And then another thing the Yugos did differently is they had a different safety system. So you have a safety on the PPS-41. Your safety, you didn't really have one. You had a little locker that you could lock the bolt closed, or you could lock the bolt open in the receiver. And then you can see the fire controls work exactly the same. So forward is full auto, reverse is semi-auto. And essentially the way the semi-auto would work is your bolt would catch on here, and when you pull the trigger, that lug will go out of the way, bolt will go forward, smack the receiver, and then your bolt would cam this down, and when coming back, it would lock on it, and it wouldn't be able to reset again until you pull the trigger again. It's kind of hard to display on the trigger assembly out of the gun like this, but this one here is actually going to be considerably harder to put back together, simply the way the cuts are and the fact that it's a tube. Now, the crest is actually nice on there, so I'm going to do my best to save the crest. I'm going to wait on this gun here so I can find the right parts for it. Essentially what I'm thinking about doing on this gun is I got a bolt conversion kit. And essentially this kit here converts the gun to a striker fire. So I convert the the trigger fire control group to semi-auto. Essentially what I do is I put it in semi-auto, I drill a hole through here all the way through the kit here, and then I weld it into place, and there's a bar here, trying to see it works at. I'm not exactly sure. I have to look at the directions for the Yugo, exactly what you do. I think there's another piece you have to weld in here. I'm not sure yet. I haven't really looked at this kit a whole lot. But essentially, this is a firing pin set up, and essentially, I got the directions, everything you do to convert this gun into semi-auto striker fired. And essentially on this kit, this is actually the hammer. This sits on a spring, and this is the surface that catches on the sear and releases and hits the firing pin like so. So pretty simple system. Conversion's pretty easy. The issue comes for me with wanting to retain all my original factory markings on the gun. So the reason for that is this new bolt is actually machined down smaller than the original bolt. And the reason for that is because the same company sells a tube kit that pretty much replaces all the tubing for this bolt, and it's undersized. So this factory bolt cannot fit inside of the gun, which is great and all, except for the fact that doing that, you lose all your original markings on the gun. So that gives kind of a problem to where, for me as a collector, that destroys the value of the gun. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm doing a bit of research on this one here before I even really mess with this gun. For one, I can't find a barrel just yet. I'm talking to KP Products to see if maybe I can send them some parts to this gun so they can do a production run of barrels again, because they haven't done them in a long time. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to find a piece of tubing that will fit the inside diameter of this tubing for the receiver, but it's still small, has a large enough inside diameter for the new bolt to fit inside of. And essentially what I'm thinking about doing is cleaning up all these burrs, sliding that tube inside of it, and then welding it in place using that tube as a holder to hold everything together, and then going through and cutting out all the holes and whatnot, and essentially doing the same thing on the front. I might just replace the shroud completely with a new piece of perforated tube. I haven't figured out a lot of stuff that I've been trying to figure out on this particular gun in order to build it. So that's why I'm not really messing with this one a whole lot. These kits, this kit here was only $349, and after looking at it, it's a bit more work to it than I initially planned, and these are less desirable than the next gun I'm going to show you, so you know, they're pretty cheap. So I'm going to be working on that a little later on. The next one looks the same, but is actually the one that the Yugo is based on. So what I have here is an actual Russian PPS-43, PPS-41 that I am working on. Now, I actually started on this one, what was it, yesterday? Or the day before? No, it was the day before I started working on this one here. And this one here is actually, as far as welding together and everything, it's a simpler process. It's an easier gun. Now, where I'm at right now on it is I've already converted my fire control group to semi-auto. You see I drilled a hole through, pinned it, welded it, and then I welded the selector bar up top as well. So this will only work in semi-auto. Right now I've got working on my denial bar on it. I've got beads of weld in it right now, preventing any bolt from being inserted. And I welded together my shroud. I got a 6-inch barrel. Essentially, this is going to be a striker fire gun as well, but it's a different process. Essentially, what you do is I'm going to be cutting the bolt right there or right here, and then drilling this out to have a firing pin in it. And it's the same thing as the other one. This back section is going to be the hammer, and it's going to slam into the firing pin to fire the cartridge. Now, I do have one drum mag for both of these guns. It does not fit very well in either receiver, to be honest. So I know it's not factory, fitted to either one of these guns. It's just a magazine. These were hand fitted to every single gun, and sometimes even serialized. And interesting enough, on this particular one, if I can get it open. This one has somebody's name scratched inside of it and some other stuff. It's hard to see. I can't read Ukrainian or Russian or whatever that's supposed to be, so I have no clue what it says. But these are hand fitted. I can get this one inside of the PPS, but I am going to probably sand down this front side here, polish it up just a little bit so it fits in a little easier. But essentially, that's where I'm at on this gun here. I was originally planning on working on it today, but I decided against it because it's 4th of July, and I just kind of felt like being lazy. I did refinish this stock already. Essentially, it was full of cosmoline, so I had to, heat up the cosmoline, restained it, and sprayed it down, and it looks pretty good. I'm happy with the way that turned out. But essentially, as I'm at on this, I am more concerned about making this gun look far prettier than the PPS-41, because this is one of my dream guns. This is one of my unicorn guns. Now, this kit here was $600, and they are becoming increasingly hard to find. One thing I hate about this particular gun is the mum, or the crest, was completely hit with a torch. So essentially what they did is, for the Russian guns, for import, they have to remove all import marks, or all markings. So the crest that would have been here was just hit with a torch. And the date, 1945, is still there somewhat. So what I'm going to do is, when this gun's completely finished, I'm going to smooth this area all the way over. I'm going to try to find me a professional engraver to replicate the original stamp that would have been on here. You can see right now it is very roughly welded together. It's straight. The barrel does fit in it, so I'm happy with that. This was easier to weld together than the PPS. I had less problems with it. I still got a little bit of tuning to do. I probably need to cut this weld right here and bend this ever so slightly and then weld it back together. But besides that, it's together. Now, I run into the same issue with this project as I do with the PPS-41, and that is converting the bolt over. I have to find a machinist that is going to be able to do all the work on the bolt for me in order to make it semi-auto for the project. So essentially, I'm going to have this thing built and probably done before I even have it fireable, because I won't be able to find a bolt for it. Now, this one here, I'm trying my hardest to make it look absolute best possible. So I want it to be as beautiful as can be, because like I said, this is one of my dream guns. And I'm currently in Call of Duty Warzone. My side rifle is a PPS-41 right now. So I love the platform, really good. The Russians replaced it because, well, obviously it was a little harder to produce, but just a total legend of a gun. And I am going to have a video directly on this here, probably when I'm a little further along in the project. But I just wanted to give y'all guys kind of a, update on where I'm at on the PPS-41, and also introduce the two other parts guns that I am currently going to be building. It was a mistake that I discovered the World Parts guns, because I have other guns on my list I do want to buy, but I really want to finish these three kits, or at least the two main ones, before I even look at purchasing any other kits. Not to mention, I have other guns that need attention and parts and upgrades as well. So, anyways, I'll see y'all guys back on the next update or the next video. And y'all have a good one and happy 4th of July.